But welcome to all of you this morning to our leadership for 2019. With us today, we have two instructors who were recommended to us by our education committee when we met, and I contacted them, and they were quite excited to come visit with us and possibly teach you some new skills that you hadn't thought about or just hadn't learned in the past. This morning we have with us Lou Ann Dobbins. She is the coordinator of Employee Assistance Program Business Development for New Avenues Incorporated, a position she has held since 2008. In this role, Lou Ann works with human resource professionals and business managers in setting up and servicing their organizations with customized employee assistance programs. Lou Ann conducts EAP employee orientations and supervisor training, as well as training covering a variety of behavioral issues in the workplace. Additionally, she represents New Avenues at local and regional marketing expos, participates in benefit and health fairs, and other client events. Lou Ann earned a Bachelor of Science degree from Indiana University Bloomington and a Master of Science degree from Indiana University South Bend. She has over 30 years experience in the field of behavioral health. Lou Ann is a member of the Michiana Society of Human Resource Management, the Michiana Human Resource Association, and the Executive Women's Forum. Also with us today, and I forgot to ask, Nancy Pietrangeli. She is the coordinator of EPA Corporate Services at New Avenues Incorporated, a position she also has held since 2008. In this account management role, Nancy works with human resource professionals and business owners, managers of clients' organizations, providing them with services to meet their needs. Included are EAP, employee orientation and supervisor training, as well as training covering a variety of behavioral issues in the workplace. Additionally, she coordinates and participates in benefit and health fairs and other client events. Nancy has a Bachelor of Arts degree from St. Mary the Wood College, Terre Haute, and earned a Master of Science degree in Counseling and Human Services from Indiana University South Bend. Nancy's background includes 15 years in the field of human resources with experience in service, manufacturing, healthcare sectors, and in union and non-union environments. She is a member of the National Society of Human Resource Management, the Michiana Society of Human Resource Management, and served for 8 years on the board of the Michiana Human Resource Association. Additionally, she is a member of the Executive Women's Forum. New Avenues, where they both are employed, is the behavioral management company founded over 35 years ago and is headquartered in South Bend, Indiana. New Avenues offers employee assistance programs and behavioral health benefit administration services to employers through a network of providers nationwide. So I introduce to you Lou Ann and Nancy.
Good morning. Well, I guess my first comment would be that you obviously all are leaders. You have been elected to your positions. So today we're going to hopefully talk about some of those issues of what leadership is and perhaps how you can enhance some of that leadership. You've heard about us. If we could quickly go down, I don't know if you all know each other, but it would be helpful for us. Okay, if you tell us where exactly what position you hold and where you hold it. So could we start right here?
Yes, my name is Sadie Eldridge. I am in charge.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. We're going to have to get used to this, but we will.
My name is Sadie Eldridge, and I am a leader of 8 employees for the Hamilton County Real Property Department with the Auditor's Office.
Teresa Petro, Recorder, Johnson County. We have 6 full-time employees and 3 part-time.
Angel Weiser, and I'm the Chief Deputy Recorder for Johnson County.
Okay, thank you.
Is this really?
It's on. You need to talk about it.
Okay. I don't, doesn't sound like it's on.
It's for the camera.
Okay. Pat Brooks, Warwick County Recorder, Southern Indiana.
I'm Mitzi Kaufman, and I'm the Chief Deputy Recorder in Warwick County.
Amy Talbert, Vermilion County Auditor.
Debbie Resch, Wayne County Recorder.
Teresa Lynch, Hendricks County Recorder.
Nikki Baldwin, Boone County Recorder.
Carolyn Birch, Wells County Recorder.
Kathy Smith, Brown County Clerk.
Laura Wirt, Chief Deputy Clerk in Brown County.
Nick Parr, Boone County Highway.
Craig Parks, Boone County Engineer.
Max Mendenhall, Boone County Highway Department.
Actually, I'm not from Boone County. Ken Powell, Wayne County Commissioner.
Brenda Hardy, Fountain County Auditor.
Heather Myers, Boone County Auditor.
Mary Beth Wisniewski, St. Joseph County Recorder.
Lori Austin, White County Recorder.
Becky Blankenship, First Deputy in White County.
Okay, great. Well, we're going to start out today with, we're going to try to divide into small groups. I think what would be best is if these three and these three got together, you can just turn your chairs around. The 4 and 2 over here. Perhaps we can get, let's see how we want to do this. If you'll turn your chairs around here and maybe the 3 of you work together, okay? We'll make it a little smaller group. If you want to join them over there, you could do that. Okay, so what I'd like to do is to have someone in the group share a leadership story, okay? One where you kind of, one of a problematic area, let's say, where you, or maybe it wasn't even problematic, that you had to kind of use your leadership role. Just let me use just an example, okay? So let's say you were elected to this position, you replaced somebody with a whole different leadership style than you had, and now you step into this and you have to work with that group. That's something similar to that, okay? So if you'll break into those groups, we're going to get started with a little discussion on different styles of leadership that way. So let's say 10 minutes, okay? And then we'll bring them. So we'll have one person from each group kind of share it when we're done.
I'm going to video this group.
Hmm?
I'm going to video this group.
Never mind. We need some recorder stories from White County.
It's all you, Craig. We better put the microphone kind of in the middle then.
He's not like the guy. He needs to tell us.
Yeah, the elected should be the ones, not the appointed ones, right? For me, I am 4 years into this job as the engineer and director of the highway department, and these guys were both there at the time, but it was in a shambles, I guess, to say the least. So to be able to change the culture and to turn the place upside down, we had to let some people go. We had to we added some additional positivity as well. We restructured, and it's been a fun ride so far. So,
Tell me, in a lot of counties, the county commissioners will decide that they are county engineers and they know how to run roads.
Mhm.
So they try and tell the highway department how to do it. In other counties, like in our county, we let the county engineer do that,
Uh-huh.
the highway superintendent. So how do you do it in Boone County?
My commissioners are great. They let me, they've supported me along the way, so they're there if I need them for my support. But all in all, the decisions, we don't make decisions politically. We make them based on engineering judgment and need. And so I think their engagement with the highway department, again, correct me if I'm wrong, these two, but is less now than it was before, because I think they trust where it's going. They have confidence, and they brought me on with that understanding. So, yeah. So they stay out of my stuff very well. Yes.
So have you developed then a 10-year, 5-year bridge plan and so on?
Yeah, bridge, road, fleet plan. We've 5-year plans for all those that we just keep rolling them.
How many miles of roads?
750 miles of road.
Almost identical to us.
Yeah, but we have 300 plus that are gravel still.
Well, ours are all
So
paved.
yeah.
Sorry about that.
Well, White County's got a lot of gravel roads too.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
So
Okay. All right. How many bridges?
192.
We're 233.
Okay.
We're
Yeah.
very, very close.
Yeah.
And how much do you have in your bridge fund?
Cume Bridge only typically is bridge fund is typically only about $600,000 a year, $500,000 to $600,000. So we're having to leverage other funds
to build the bridges.
bring it. Yes.
Yeah, we run $5 million. That's
You
my
have
goal.
a major bridge fund.
$5 million that we keep in there. Yeah.
Yeah. And my cash
But
balance.
you don't get that overnight, and it sounds like your predecessors maybe didn't do his job with the commissioners. Maybe.
Well, I have a good cash balance in there, but it's a matter of whether a lot of it was fear of going and asking for more additional funding through multiple sources. So, yeah, I pulled not just Cume Bridge, but I turn every stone and try to find funding.
Funding to do it. Can understand. It makes sense. Yeah. Well, how about you ladies?
Where is Wayne?
Richmond. We're in Richmond. White is
White County's at North Monticello.
Monticello. Okay. All right.
Yeah. We're kind of like you. Our office was in a little bit of shambles when we came in, and I had to let somebody go and replaced with Becky, and I have 2 long-time employees, like 20, 30-year employees. And they're having a difficult time with change, and so we're hoping we can find some strategies to deal with that today. So any suggestions that
Yeah. Good and bad depends on the employee, doesn't it?
We had so sometimes both with the same person, you know, you lose a lot of experience with that person, but also the negativity and stuff is gone too.
I can give you a little case history that I always look at opportunities that an opportunity was presented to me. In this particular case, it was the auditor's office, the treasurer's office, and the assessor's office. As those folks sometimes have the inability to communicate with each other, and so they have problems. And we got to a point where in our treasurer's office, the employees that were in there did not want to go down to the assessor's office because they were kind of a little bit afraid of one of the folks in the assessor's office. So when you look at that, it's number one, it's always a communications problem on there, but at the same time, in my position, I'm always the go-to person that has to solve the problems within the county. And I don't have any training for this, but, the first thing's always that I have found, you go talk to the individuals in each of the departments, which I did, and then looked at that. Okay, then how do we get the 3 departments together? Which we did, and set them down then to discuss the roles. And of course, I'd kind of preset it with each of the departments, so I knew what the problems were within each of the individual department, and I knew who the one individual was in the assessor's office that was causing the problem with the young ladies in the treasurer's office. So how do I get them now to talk to each other? And and so we did. So to make a long story short, in the group meeting that we had together with all three departments, we were able to have them talk about that, and the fact that the one lady said, "My gosh, I've never banned anybody from my department," but one of the other department heads had said, "Yeah, she's banned everybody. You can't go there anymore." So the other department believed that. So in the communications, again, they found out that that wasn't the problem, and the fact that, yeah, you're more than welcome to come into my office on there, and so we finally worked it out pretty much where it came back again strictly to communications and misunderstanding within the individual departments on there. So it worked out in that time anyway. And I would tell you, New Avenues, we utilize those in our Wayne County. We've used them several times. And if you're not familiar with them, I would recommend when you go back, you check into the services they provide. It's excellent for our employees on there. And they have stress programs, they have financial programs, they have all different types of programs. And all of our folks that we have different problems as employees on there. And so what do you do with those folks on there? I have a young lady right now that's got a lot of stress at home, and she's been able to utilize the services that New Avenues provides to her. And it's free to our employees. Of course, the county pays for it on there, but it's free to our employees. It's very confidential on there. And most counties don't have the training or the staff. Some don't have HR departments. Some do. We do have an HR department. We have 3 people in our HR department, and that's extremely helpful. And we handle most of our complaints there first, and so that helps, but a lot of counties don't have HR departments, and so
Did you use HR when you solved your problem with the multiple offices?
the HR was part of that discussion. Yes, I used our head HR person in that. Yes.
Brought them into the meeting.
Brought them into the meeting initially, and of course we document all of that. Anymore you document everything in case you get that lawsuit. So the HR person's the one that documents. And
does the HR work is appointed by you, by the commissioners?
Yes, we have hired those individuals. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're in the commissioner's budget in our particular case. Highway you might take, or in the recorder's office, is you just don't know what's going to pop up out there and the problems that you're going to have. And we don't have that many people. We've got about 350 total employees, and you're probably about the same, close. Okay, so and you talk about what you ran into in your department, and it's, I'm amazed what I run into out there.
Right. We do have an HR department.
Help with some of the things that you need to work with. As you said, you have big staff issues and things that you're trying to. So having HR to consult with has been beneficial.
We haven't talked with them yet. That's our next step. We've just been trying to work through it, be patient.
How long have you been in office?
January.
Okay. Yeah. It's still fresh.
Yeah.
What I would recommend is don't make any changes. I didn't make any changes for 6 months. I sat back and evaluated everything. So it's the talent and the attitudes, everything. Just kind of looked from within and afar, and got to make my own decisions, not just what people were saying to me, and it was very helpful.
Were you in the office before?
No.
All the way outside. Yep. Good.
It's definitely an interesting transition.
Yes, it is. So we have this for the video. Okay, what I'm going to ask is for a representative from each group to kind of share with us one of the stories that you had, okay? And as a group, kind of reflect on these a little bit. So we'll start over here. I guess, there you go.
Hi, Pat Brooks, Warwick County. we just shared about our office in Warwick County, which is southern Indiana. About a year and a half ago, the recorder's office was flooded. We had overhead HVAC units, and the new unit was put in, wasn't put in right. Long story short, flooded the entire office. Employees were out. We had to move from the treasurer's office. She got tired of us being there. We were too noisy. Moved us to the we couldn't get in the assessor's office, so then they moved us to the auditor's office, and that was kind of rough too. It took us a couple of months to get back in. We had books had to be dry, and employees, it was really difficult when you're trying to work on like 2 computers to do the job that we normally do. And then yesterday morning, well, everything is settled back. We've got, the claim was probably close to $300,000. We got everything kind of settled back, just bought new equipment, just paid about $12,000 for a new eye scan, a really nice one. Yesterday morning, I got a call about 5 o'clock. They had put a new back unit in. The plumbing wasn't done right. My office flooded again. We are out again. Now, I have been, the employees, it's really difficult on them, so we have to work around and try to keep them occupied. We moved into a little conference room, so we have, we're all 4 employees are going to be in there with 1 computer, and we're going to try to work around and share. But the stress on the employees, and we got the abstractors are mad at us, the people come in, they don't understand why we can't record, we can't do the e-recordings, so we have to work around it. But it has been very difficult. And I do work with the county. We got some good county commissioners who are working with us, and they are as frustrated, particularly one of our new commissioners. He's as frustrated as anybody else. So once again, we're out of the recorder's office.
Good example, okay? Without leadership, that would not happen well, right? Okay, so that's what we're going to talk a little bit about. But the whole idea is here is that, and we're going to talk about the different kinds of leadership and different leadership roles. But if someone wasn't in charge and taking over some leadership roles, you would have a real disaster. So that's good sharing. This group over here, who's going to report? Who wants to use their example? Okay.
I guess we kind of shared the frustrations of the auditor's office in general. One, we all have to work together. And when you go into another office and someone cops an attitude, then the other one cops an attitude. And so it just spirals, fast. So I did have that happen last year. And so I finally intervened because I got some chewing on me about my deputy. So I went to that deputy and I told her, I said, your choice, you can either go apologize to those 2 ladies in that office, or you can do nothing and have the stress every day. Up to you. If I was you, I would go over there and apologize, and she did. Totally different atmosphere for the time being. I mean, we still have our moments, because there's so many women in the courthouse. But, we all have to work together to get the tax bills out, treasurer's office, even the recorder's office. So I like to get along. I want to do my job, and I want to do it well. And I expect the same from others.
Another good example, because that's what leaders have to do. A little bit later in our presentation today, Nancy's going to talk about communication, which kind of falls into some of the things you were talking about. So she'll have some interesting things to share with you on communication. So that's good. Okay, this group back here, who's going to be the spokesman? Okay.
Well, you talked about communications. I think the first thing that we talked between the 3 counties that we had here was communications, and that's the key thing. We had new folks here. We have a county engineer. We have a new recorder back here with problems that were within their office and their ability to talk to those folks, and talking about the ability with your HR department. If you have an HR department, we're fortunate. In Wayne County, we do have an HR department, so department heads are able to work with the HR department. Also with the individuals in grouping to get together, and how quick do you make decisions. In Boone County, the new county engineer that came in evaluated that, I believe it was 6 months on there as he evaluated the office, communicated with the folks within the highway department before he made the determination of changes that he wanted to make. That was one of the recommendations we made to the new recorder that's here by a few months, is to evaluate what you have there first. And I have found in my experience in Wayne County, Deborah, talking, communication is probably the most important thing that you can do. And I just recently had experiences with 3 departments that were not getting along, and it took several meetings to get them all communicating together to work out those differences momentarily. Anyway, it always seems it's the same 2 or 3 departments that I have problems with. But I would always come back and say it's communications. At the same time, I will give a plug for New Avenues. It was my recommendation to get New Avenues here. We work with them in Wayne County. If you're not familiar with what New Avenues can do for you within, it's very inexpensive to utilize them, but we have several of our employees that have utilized their service. It's all confidential. It's very good because they get into financial, they get into stress, they get into all sorts of problems, and many times your employees don't want to talk to you, and they don't want to talk to the HR department. So you need that other third party. We have found them to be very, very helpful to us in resolving problems, and we have utilized them within our county to come and do presentations with departments that we've had some problems with. So there you go.
Thank you for the free advertising. Okay. So actually, what we do is employee assistance programs. So do you have, does other have employee assistance? Okay. We are in South Bend, but we do the whole state. I mean, we actually are in 50 states. So, but yeah, thank you. Okay, this group here. And by the way, we're going to spend a whole hour on communication because we know how important it is, especially in the leadership role, but it's everything today is, comes down to, I think one of the biggest problems today is that we don't communicate anymore. People are on their little electronic devices. Kids are growing up with electronic devices. What we know about this new generation Z that's coming up, they do not have communication skills. We know that. So all of you are going to have to deal with that because they're getting onto the workplace real quick here. So that's some of the things that we feel are important in the leadership role. Okay, this group, who's going to report?
I think collectively the group, there was a lot of change with elected officials coming in and then reversing roles is tough, where you've had a leader who is now not the leader and them taking a step back in the dynamic, or having someone come in that has won the election and created animosity from the one going out, who is moved to a different position and unwilling to work with the incumbent or the new electee, and trying to manage all of those relationships and workflow and hitting walls. And in one instance, unfortunately, an employee, there was a problematic employee, and the elected official sought termination, and the council commissioners were afraid of a lawsuit, so they took her line item for that employee and added it to there and just moved the employee out of her area, but also took her line item. So it seems like there's a lot of non-communication or communication with others, but not the person that's directly affected. So
that's a great example. How many of you have run into the Democrats against the Republicans or that kind of thing? I mean, we have found that. Okay, so especially maybe one administration of one political party has been in, another gets in, and you have that. Never the twain shall meet, just because one's a Democrat and the other one's a Republican. So those are some of the kinds of things that I know that you probably face periodically, let's say. Okay, we are going to talk a little bit, actually a lot, but hopefully not a whole bunch, on what is leadership and the leadership role. I know that that I have some things in our presentation today that you probably had discussed a little bit last year. It's my understanding, but I'll go over those very quickly. And there are some things in here that are actually a part of leadership that I have to admit are pretty boring. Okay, so I'm going to try to go over those as quickly as possible and point out why we talk about them a little bit, okay? But I'll try not to spend too much time on them because I find it pretty boring myself. So the first thing is, what is leadership? So the definition is that it's a process where a person exerts influence over others and inspires, motivates, and directs activities to achieve goals. And I mean, that's definitely what it is. I like to say that it's the ability to take people somewhere that they would not have gone without you. So that's your role in doing that. And every organization or situation, in all of this, there will be leaders. Some in the position, okay, because they were elected, some in the position because they took that role, and some just by assumption. So we're going to kind of talk about those particular differences. Oops. I'm sorry. Okay. Between the microphone and this and my notes, okay, I'm a little disorganized. So what makes a leader? Well, some people believe that leadership is inherited. And I will say that some people have a personality that automatically puts them kind of steers them toward a leadership role. One of the things that one of the programs that Nancy and I do with New Avenues is one on personalities, okay, where we take four personality types and we assign animals to them, okay, and that's their animal type. So it's loosely based on the Myers-Briggs, but very loosely. So one of those animals happens to be a lion. And lion people are natural leaders, okay? So they have that personality that makes them leaders. But that doesn't necessarily make them good leaders. And the other thing is it doesn't mean that the other three animals, okay, can't develop leadership skills. So just kind of to let you know that. So whereas certain people do have a greater natural leadership ability, does not mean that we can't all develop some kind of leadership There's proof that hard work and intelligence are more important than inherited traits when it comes to leadership. And I truly believe this. Now, by personality type, I am a lion, okay? And so it means I'm in charge. It does not necessarily mean that I'm a great leader. Okay, we're going to talk about what develops great leaders, okay? I do like to be in charge, but it doesn't make me the best. Okay, so there's different kinds of leadership. Many people believe that authority makes a leader. Okay, so by the fact that you're elected official, you're a leader. Okay, by the fact that somebody is a supervisor, that they're a leader. But every supervisor or elected official is not necessarily a leader. They have that name, but it doesn't make them a leader. And the other piece to that is that you can be a peon, okay? Are not elected, you're just a working bee, you know, you're the worker bee, and you are the leader. So there's a lot of, a role doesn't make you a leader. I keep going backwards. This thing is good. Well, it's backwards to me. Okay, there we go. Okay. So authority, a good leader guides and assists her people or his people rather than merely dictating orders. And that's what we're going to talk about a lot today, is how that's done and the different ways that can be done. So we're all guiding people, I guess, is how we actually are guiding people. So the personal qualities of a leader, and there are different ones. Yeah, why don't you do that? Okay. One less thing off my mind. Okay. Okay. This is frickin' frack over here. Okay. Leaders are mentally alert. Okay, and these are important traits that leaders need to have. They're vigorous. Okay. I don't know a single leader that has no personality, no energy, that just kind of sits there and a bumping along. Okay, you would not call that person a leader. Okay, that person isn't going to energize anything. Leaders are enthusiastic. They have positive attitudes. They're intelligent. They're honest, and they have integrity. And that honesty and integrity is important because that's what people respect. So the other part of all of this is that you can't be a leader if other people don't respect what you do and how you do it and who you are. So that's the other piece to that. I think there's a second slide on this. Nope, you're going the wrong way. Okay. This is backwards. Okay, it is. Okay. Oh, I was doing the same thing. Okay. Guess we're not leaders. Okay. Okay. So the other thing with leaders is image. Okay. So your image is how other people see you, and you might think yourself as a leader. You might have the title as a leader, but if other people don't see you that way, they don't, so part of that's going to be, Nancy's going to talk about that in communication, so that's body image, okay, so that's one of the things. And leaders are self-motivated and they're knowledgeable. So it doesn't mean that you automatically come with that knowledge. It means that leaders learn constantly. They're learning new skills. They're learning new ideas. They're learning new crafts or whatever it is. But leaders are knowledgeable. Okay. So effective leaders plan ahead, set realistic and attainable goals, and involve employees in goal setting. And we're going to talk more about that. So I would say that the bottom line here is involving employees in goal setting. It's getting everybody involved in it, not just because you're a leader, you're going to make all of the decisions. Sometimes you will have to, but not necessarily all the time. Okay. So some characteristics of effective leaders is they provide purpose. So people that work for you, people that maybe it's not just even a work situation, maybe it's a home situation, maybe it's a community situation or something like that. They respect you because they see that you have a goal in mind and it's a good one. They demonstrate competency, they think creatively, they make decisions and problem solve. Obviously, that's a big piece to it. They communicate clearly, they set and maintain standards and recognize and reward results. And we're going to talk a little bit about how important that is in terms of recognition and some kind of rewards. Doesn't have to be monetary. Doesn't have to be. We're going to talk about intrinsic and extrinsic rewards. So, but that's something that helps. And effective leaders motivate other people. So that's the important thing, is we don't just tell people, we motivate people. And that's going to be a real important thing in terms of what leaders really need to do to really be a great leader, is you actually prepare other people to lead. That's what you want to do. Okay, so that's going to be the bottom line of all this. They're good listeners. Nancy's going to talk about that with communication, how important that is. And effective leaders, they learn all the time. They're constantly learning, and they teach, and they treat others with dignity and respect. So this is some of the things that I was talking about earlier in terms of, I'm going to go over quickly because it can get pretty boring. But so we're gonna talk about beliefs, values, character, and ethics. And obviously they're very important. Because nobody's going to respect you if you don't have good ethics and et cetera. And it does set a leadership climate. But I just need to point out that just people will generally behave. They will respect you based on your beliefs that you stand by. It's not what you say, it's kind of what you do. And that's the same thing with values. So it's kind of how you're going to treat customers and one another, what behaviors are going to be rewarded, the process by which decisions are made are all going to be based on your value system, and what are acceptable work styles. So the thing is that we tend to, and we need to be careful on some of this, is to impose our value system on someone else's value system. So we have to kind of realize, I mean, if it's important that we have ethics, it's important that we have a value system, but the other part of it is that we need to be careful that we don't impose that on someone else who might not be their value system. So we're going to go on to, okay, character. Okay, so all aspects of a person's character, and in turn, all aspects of how the leader operates. Effectiveness of a leader in terms of being a strong leader or a weak leader. It's kind of doing what you believe is right, even if there's some risk taking involved. Is going to show character. In tough times, leadership takes self-discipline, determination, initiative, compassion, and courage. So sometimes, even though we're good at being a leader. Some of those pieces there are the difficult ones, that in difficult times that we can still stand up and be self-disciplined, kind of stand for our principles and stand on them even when sometimes the public opinion might be against us, that we can say, no, this is what I believe in. This is how I want this department. This is how I want my employees treated, and that type of thing. And the other thing is with character is, we're all human and we make mistakes, and that with character, when we make those mistakes, that we own up to them. We apologize. That we actually, can admit that we made a mistake, because that shows the people that we actually are leading, that we're not perfect either, and that we make mistakes, but by making mistakes, how we correct those mistakes is an example that we want to give. And the last one here is ethics, and I think that ethics is very important because it is what we actually, it's our core, and then how we actually transmit that. So, excuse me. So here we have loyalty, duty, self-service, integrity, and as part of those, we can have a discussion on each of those, but what I'd like to do at this point, okay, is that as part of all of this, what do I want to say? It's more out there in space than it is actually, concrete. But you have a handout in your packet. What I'd like you to do, okay, is it looks like this. It's actually meant to be a pie, okay? What I would like you to do is underneath it, draw yourself a big circle. Now this pie has 8 pieces to it. Your pie may not have 8 pieces, okay? Your pie might have 4 pieces, it might have 2 pieces, it might have 6 pieces. It actually might have a bigger piece and a smaller piece, okay? So what I'd like you to do is to look at the 8 different qualities that I have put down there and think about yourself and where you think the importance is on the leadership role in this pie. So, would you put all 8 of those on there? Would you put 4 of those on there? If you put 4 of them on there, would you have maybe passion and purpose being a half of your pie and not just a quarter of your pie? So work on that a little bit and just kind of get in context with where you think your leadership role is. Okay. Do we have a few people that would like to share their pie and why they chose it? Anybody? Okay, here you go. Good, thank you.
Well, the big ones are passion and purpose, integrity. Next would be vision and inspire. And then value, acknowledge people, and then prioritization, and then empathy.
So why did you put your biggest being, let's say, passion? Okay.
I always feel like, because, as long as you have a purpose and you're passionate, and then if you have integrity, some of these I feel like fall into some of these other categories. That as long as you're leading with a vision and you're inspired and you have integrity and you're acknowledging people, some of the self-awareness and self-efficiencies should come along with that.
Very good. And that's a lot of things. A lot will follow when you have, certain core values of that. Then other things will. And I think I like the fact that being liking what you do and putting that out there so that people see your positive attitude. It just kind of spreads. That's one of the things. Anybody else want to share something that they had a little different?
Mine's a lot different. I think my biggest one is value and acknowledge people. I just think positive treatment. Everybody has a gift. They all aren't good at the same thing. There's a really good book I read a long time ago, The 5 Languages of Love, and I try to figure out what inspires each different employee, try to give that to them. Integrity and duty. I added duty with integrity. I think, and it goes along with self-awareness, self-efficiency. Those are both kind of even too. If I'm a good example and I feel that I'm doing a good job, and they see that, then I think the expectations are a little higher. I expect more of myself than anyone. And then prioritization. Recorder's office. You hear a lot. Oh, that's easy. They don't have a lot to do. Well, boy, we sure have a lot to do. And it's trying to figure out how to bring everything forward to keep up with technology. And it seems like we have a million things going and, people coming and saying, hey, what do you want me to do? Even little things like that make an impact. So.
Okay. So, anybody else want to share theirs that might be a little different? Okay. So one of the things that, there's no right or wrong on this, okay? Those are all, each piece of that pie on top is an important part for a leader. But what this helps kind of do is to kind of show us ourselves. And when we look at this, where do we believe more, and and it's kind of more on how do we lead. We can associate that with that.